A, B, C. So what's the process of yours in saying, breaking that story and deciding your direction?
It starts with the three of us in a room, just talking about what we think about this season. You know, so there's things that we've talked about from the very beginning about where we want to take the show. There's things that sometimes you don't get to in a season, so you punt to the next season. And so you start the season off just getting together, talking about all the ideas, all the things that you'd like to happen, you know, in this one season.
But it starts from usually a place of character. It's like, okay, we're at the end of season 2, we saw what just happened to everybody there, and it's getting inside their heads. What do these characters feel about what's going on? Where would they be? What's the next step? And what would be a fulfilling or an interesting arc for these characters to go throughout the season? So we plan the big picture together, we talk through all the characters, all that, then we start to say, okay, this will be the first episode will feel this way, and then but this will be like late in the season. We don't know which episode, but it'll be somewhere there. We start just sort of putting the pieces all over the place. We have a ton of index cards that are just all over the place that are moving parts.
Our writer's room looks like the Unabombers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, basically.
It's like we're trying to solve a crime.
Story beats all over the place.
But you know, I mean, I was just going to say there's a few weeks of us doing that, and then we bring in our writer's room. We bring in the other writers on our team. We download them with our plan for the season overall. We say, are there any like big red flags? Are there things that you're not loving? Are there things that you're craving? What are ideas that you have? And we start working through it. And then once we've sort of done that for like 2 or 3 days, then we're like, okay, episode 1. And then we all start planning that episode together, and we go in order, and ideas pop up throughout the writing process at all times, things that, you know, there will be a tangent where we're like, one day it's like we're jumping to the finale for something because we were inspired. One of us thinks of something on the ride in to work, and we just want to start talking about that in the day.
But nothing ever happens in a vacuum. It's, you know, whenever there's an idea for an episode, it's not like we don't silo anything off where it's like, oh, well, too bad, they already wrote that episode, so we'll just pick that up here. It's like, it's becoming an orchestra. You know, when we first started the series, it was a 3-piece band. There was Johnny's world, there was Daniel's world, there was the high school. And now it literally is an orchestra where no 2 storylines are inexorably linked. There is, Crease's world is very distinct, Daniel's world is very distinct, Robbie's world is different from Miguel's world, is different from Sam's world, and never more true than the beginning of season 3 after what happened. Everybody is going to have their own response to that, have their own comeback story as it relates to that event, and need that space to respond and to grow and to have new challenges. So it really does, it takes all 3 of us to kind of conduct that orchestra and feel like, are we feeling enough strings? You know what? Like, too many strings, like, you know, we need to feel the horn section, and it needs to feel cohesive so we don't miss an opportunity to be, you know, sowing the seeds of a storyline that will grow into something bigger thematically in the next episode.
Speaking of the storylines and what's growing, do you use what the fans say at all? Does that have any impact whatsoever? Especially like with a character that's a breakthrough character that people love. Do they get more screen time based on what fans say?
I'll say we're very engaged with our fans. Like, because, you know, it's a YouTube show especially, you know, we see the reaction videos, we love the Twitter interaction, we love an engaged fan base that, you know, makes their own merchandise and memes and everything else, and we hear it all and we see it, and to us it's just proof of that we're not the only ones that engage in this storylines, but we also try to keep the story that we set in motion ourselves before we put pen to paper in season 1 as pure as possible, and make sure that as we advance it, it's advancing from what we put on screen and the conversations we're having. But we do hear it, but I wouldn't say that we dig into it for...
There's not, like, sometimes you'll find the fan who, you know, randomly knows a little something, like an inconsistency or something, and so you may be like, oh, okay, like, you know, just like details about like the past movies or something like that. But for the most part, it's just amazing to see, you know, all these different theories, and it's fun to take a look at them.
At the end, you brought up, like, you know, characters, if the audience is reacting. The truth of the matter is, like, we love all the characters on this show. There are characters that, like, are near and dear to our hearts, and we just, you know, that may not be talked about the most, but like for us, it's like, oh, we want this character to be in this season because we enjoy them and where they fit in the world. And it's all of the characters on the show. We're blessed to have actors who are happy to be there, who are excited to be a part of this world, and who are fun to work with. And we strive to give them great material. That all we try to do is find interesting, different things for them to do, so that they're not repeating stories and they're not doing the same beats over and over again. It's our goal to try to challenge them in different ways.
Well, we're trying to be in the test kitchen, curating the pizza so that it has the balanced ingredients. I don't like when I'm left to build my own burger, because sometimes I want everything at once and I realize that this doesn't taste good, and we're trying to make sure that we don't give everything at once, and we do balance it out in terms of characters who come back and storylines that take front and center stage.
You'll like the burger we give you.
Why was it important for you to tell this story again, or evolve it in a much more complicated and darker way, especially with this finale and the sort of brutal consequences and fallout of the high school fight?
I think it's just a consequence of having a series instead of a movie. You have a lot more time to tell a story, and so you can show the consequences of this rivalry. We have a lot of fun with the rivalry, but we, especially in the second season, we love the idea that what starts as a rivalry between these two guys trickles down to these students. It ends up in this all-out kind of West Side Story, outsiders brawl, and somebody gets seriously hurt. And so now it forces these characters to really question the roots of their rivalry. How can this be sustainable? And this is just, on the one hand, there's something silly and funny about it because it's all about this karate tournament. But on the other hand, it's a metaphor for what a lot of people deal with, and this country deals with, when you have two opposing sides that don't seem to ever, come together. And there, whether there's actual physical casualties or not, there's consequences to people not coming together. So we it's just about playing that out, and we feel like it's good drama for the show.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.